Here's the Roccat Kiro. Let's start with my favorite thing about this mouse. I have the size off at the moment, and you actually get to choose which ones you have on. So if you want no side buttons, just clip in the panels that don't have the buttons. They're very easy to take off, just these little grooves in here. Off it comes. One side button's on the right, just like that. One side button's on the left, done. So they call it super dexterous. You get to choose which hand you use and which side the buttons go on. And of course you can have buttons on both sides as well. Still, the fact that we get to choose is an amazing feature. Love it. This has the potential to replace the Razer Abyssus and SteelSeries Kinzu V3, and I'm not sure about the Corsair Qatar yet. In fact, I really like this mouse. It's got a bit of a harsh texture on the sides, same as the Tyon I believe. But it's not too bad. It's a bit similar to the Logitech G303, but just a bit rougher. So it's comfortable enough, just not something that you'd say, wow, that feels amazing too. On top you have that really nice rubber coating. The buttons click in quite nicely. A little bit rattly, but I mean for side buttons, they're pretty good. The top ones give good tactile feedback. Mouse 3. DPI switch. And scroll wheel. So going up is loud and rattly, might just be my copy. I find that on a lot of mice actually. The scroll wheel isn't good going both directions for some reason. On the topic of the scroll wheel, it's been brought to my attention that a lot of CS players are using it to jump and also to switch weapons, so they actually want the tactile feedback. Personally, I prefer a smooth mouse wheel that doesn't have that sort of feedback. So the G303 to me is a bit of a nightmare. It's just loud and annoying. But for them, it gives that tactile feedback, so you can do 2 steps and know that you've done them. It's definitely a smoother mouse wheel. You can get it to do 2 steps, but probably not as easily as the G303. You even have a nice smooth RGB gradient going on. Color cycling, Roccat can do it. No idea what was happening with the Roccat Kova, but this one can do it and it's the same generation, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, this is really nice, quite like it. There's no rattle. The cable is rubber, but it's quite flexible. So quite smooth, doesn't drag along the pad, and goes where you want it to. The mouse feet are usual Roccat quality, so good. Here's a Roccat cone. V300 by Rapoo, and Logitech G303. So they're all about the same loudness. These 2 ledge feet are very smooth. I'd put this in the small mouse range, close to the G303 and Rapoo V300. It's that golden width of 5.5 centimeters across here and 6.5 at the back. If you look on the V300, you can see that they've got those perfect grooves in the buttons, and these are my favorite to use because they are just so comfortable. So I don't know why Roccat is insisting on this flat button. It seems like a minor change to the mold, and it just adds a little bit extra comfort that makes you appreciate a mouse more. But again, it's not uncomfortable, it's just something that I'd like to see on there. As for grip style, with an 18.5cm hand, I feel pretty comfortable palming it, although because it's not very high at the back, the hand isn't going to completely rust on it. I think this mouse is going to suit claw grippers, and even fingertip grippers as well. It's a very safe shape with flat sides, so plenty of room for fingers and thumb. So this mouse has a lot of good points and a lot of good features. The problem is going to be the weight. Let's look at weights. The Logitech G303 with the cable slightly hanging on there is 93 grams. If we do the same with the Rapoo V300, it's about 98 grams. And finally with the Roccat Kiro, it's 101 grams. So while it is the heaviest of the lot, it's not that much heavier than the Rapoo V300. Why is this feeling so much heavier? I think that the answer is in the weight distribution. So while the V300 is a heavy mouse, it doesn't feel heavy because the weight is evenly balanced, or evenly balanced enough. And I think a way to check the distribution of weight is find where you actually feel comfortable holding the mouse. For me, it's about there, on either side. And if you lift it up and just let it go, how far does it go down? This one seems to drop really far back because all the weight is at the back. Now let's do the same with the V300. Fingers go there. I'm going to raise them just to avoid any bias because I don't want to get my fingers caught on the ledge. So if I do the same test, it only goes to there. Now I should say that that's not a scientific test. It's not going to have huge accuracy, it might be wrong. I was just trying to demonstrate what could be the problem and why this is feeling so much heavier than it actually is. And for those interested, without the panels, it's 88 grams. And with buttons versus without, it's pretty much the same. So Roccat have done really well of keeping the weight down. Unfortunately, it just seems like there's too much weight in the back, so it throws your balance off. As I mentioned in the cover video, Roccat are moving on to Roccat Swarm, which is like Razer Synapse, or the Logitech software, and I welcome this because I like having all the products in one area. You have sensitivity options. The DPI goes from 250 all the way to 4000 in increments of 50, and even though it's overdrive from 2000, it still goes up by increments of 50, so you can use 3200 if you wish. The horizontal tilt speed is not for tilting the mouse left and right, or even the mouse wheel left and right. It's actually if you just bind the buttons to horizontal scrolling, then this controls the speed of that scrolling. In button assignment, you can tell the software which buttons you're actually using, just using these arrow keys here, and that way you can have 7 and 8 blank, because I've got them disabled. Just be warned, if you do click this button, you will lose your configuration of those buttons, so make sure once you have it set up, either save the profile, or just don't touch it anymore. Unlike most Roccat mice, this doesn't have easy shift, but it does have all the basic functions, advanced, internet, multimedia, and open. And I can't see anywhere to assign macro. However, you can assign a hotkey if you wish. You can assign a distance control unit. I've just put it to normal, it was on high, but I didn't find any problems with it there. And for the lights, obviously you can use RGB or choose a color flow on or off. I don't see any way to actually include new profiles for that though. And fully lit, blinking or breathing, and effect speed. So good amount of control for the lights on this mouse. Now let's go rocket jump test to make sure that the mouse sensor can handle the fast flicks. I played a few hours with this mouse and I can confirm that it is pretty good sensor wise. So even though it's only 2000 DPI then overdriven to 4000, I can't really tell the difference between them and I can't feel any sensor delay. So just quickly flicking the mouse around. It's not losing track at all. So very good sensor in here. Now the same test at 400 DPI. I don't think I've got the sensitivity set right. Nope. But still, it seems to be handling the flicks just fine. Moving on to the slow movement test. At 400 DPI, it's not smooth, but it seems to track every time I do move. And that was at sensitivity 4. Now I'm back on 3200 DPI with sensitivity 0.47. And as you can see, it's tracking more movements and it's smoother. So again, I recommend using these mice at higher DPI. Just one last test, sensitivity 1 at 1600 DPI. And that feels pretty smooth too. So you don't have to use super high DPI, I recommend about 2000, but I use 3200 for mice testing purposes. This is back on 400 DPI with sensitivity 4. And the mouse feels quite snappy. I think the weight of the mouse is going to skew these results a little bit, but for what it is, it feels quite responsive. Now let's go to 3200 DPI with 0.47 sensitivity. And it feels exactly the same to me. You can feel the weight of the mouse, but otherwise it's quite responsive, and I don't have a problem with that at all. As for an acceleration test from the side of the mouse pad, just moving it fairly slowly around, get to the other side. It's about there, I'll mark that, and now doing it at full speed. And even though it went up, it's pretty much the exact same spot, so no acceleration that I can find on this mouse, or deceleration. In the line test, it performs quite well. I couldn't find any jitter in the sensor. As for lift-off movement, it goes all over the place, so that's a good sign. It's not doing anything weird like the Razer MOBA Tournament Edition. Aim-wise, I can track fairly well, I can sniper fairly well, and I can use projectiles fairly well. I think this is a 4 out of 5 star sort of mouse. It's not amazing for aim, but it is pretty good. It's a solid build. It is just that weight, I think, that is throwing it off just that little bit. But if I had to use this mouse forevermore, I think I could get comfortable with it. But with that in mind, I think there are better mice out there for first-person shooters. It's only if you want to use this mouse left-handed or you don't want side buttons at all, that you should probably consider this over, say, the EC2A, G303, or Rapoo V300. So in conclusion, I do like this mouse. It is a good addition to the market. I especially like the super dexterous design. I think Roccat could have made a few things better, and if they had just adjusted the weight that little bit more at the back, I think we'd be looking at one of the top mice. It's a safe shape with decent materials and good buttons. Everything feels like it's pretty high quality. It's just a little bit too heavy. So I hope that helps. If you'd like to see more of these reviews, please hit subscribe and hit like because it helps the video come up in search results better. If you wish to buy this mouse, I'll leave an Amazon link in the description for you. Any questions or comments, just leave them below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Until then, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.